Today, the House is considering HR3648, the EAGLE Act, a bipartisan bill that raises the per-country caps on family-sponsored immigrant visas and phases out the per-country caps on employment-based immigrant visas.
Hello, welcome.
At the 11th hour, at the end of the 117th Congress, while Democrats are colluding with a bunch of weak-kneed Republicans in the Senate to pass a bunch of money that we don't have, to borrow more money that we don't have, to jam through a massive omnibus spending bill at the expense of the American people, this body is about to jam through a garbage immigration bill that will undermine people around the world seeking to come here who are going to be put to the back of the line while colluding with big tech and big corporate interests to do it.
Welcome to U.S. immigration updates. The immigrants has great hope with the EAGLE Act 2022. Both sides of the parties. In this video, you will find the every detail of the discussion and outcomes.
Visit our Swat&Vee channel with your questions to see how best we can help you out your process. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel.
Now let's get into the video. As a result, the bill has been postponed for the time being, and there will be no EAGLE Act of 2022.
The bill also includes significant improvements to the H-1B visa program that adds protections for U.S. workers. Now, our immigration system hasn't been significantly updated since 1990, and it really just follows the basic outlines for the bill that was enacted in 1965. The failure to evolve the immigration system has significantly damaged America's ability to compete in an increasingly global economy. The system is supposed to encourage immigration based on an individual's family's ties to the United States or their ability to contribute to our economy, but it often falls short. For example, there are backlogs for families seeking reunification. That could be legal residents of the United States trying to get their spouse a legal residence visa. There are backlogs from some countries, but none for Western Europe. And in addition, the employment-based context, before a foreign national can apply for a green card, here's the process. Their employer has to advertise and demonstrate that there are no U.S. workers who are here who can do the job that they're being offered. This is to make sure that green card applicants are providing services and skills that aren't available in America. But after this initial test, which is merit-based, the per-country caps kick in. For example, under current conditions, an individual from Western Europe, a Western European country, applying for a green card in the employment-based second preference category based on a bachelor's degree would be able to gain their permanent residency in about a year. In contrast, an Indian national with a PhD and potentially superior skills might have to wait approximately 200 years. That doesn't help America. And I'd note also that the individuals who would ultimately benefit from the elimination of what amounts to a racist system of allocating visas, 95% of those individuals are already in the United States, legally working on a temporary visa, but in limbo. And as that limbo continues, their children who've been raised in the United States age out. And when they hit 21, they have to go back to the country their parents are from, but their parents remain legally in the United States. And so we're losing individuals who we need in America, including physicians. 25% of the MDs in the United States are foreign-born. Many of them are from India. And I have personally met physicians whose children have aged out, who've decided they have to move to Canada where they can get a green card equivalent in under 6 months. Now, the disparity, as I mentioned, in the family-sponsored context, there are some family-sponsored immigrants from Mexico whose wait time is over 200 years before they're eligible to receive a green card. That doesn't make any sense at all, and in fact, it's a fraud on those applicants. We've been trying to change this system for over a decade. The Fairness for High-Skilled Immigrants Act, an earlier version of this legislation, first passed the House in 2011 and again last Congress. Iterations of this bill have been led by both Democrats and Republicans and received over 350 yes votes in the House, passed by unanimous consent in the Senate. The EAGLE Act is based on a bill that passed the Senate last Congress with additional restrictions to protect American workers and a longer transition period to ensure that no country's nationals are excluded from receiving visas while the per-country caps are phased out. Why is this important? People base their expectations on the situation as it exists, and the Congressional Research Service has analyzed this bill and has stated that no one currently in line is negatively impacted by this legislation. I hope once again that we can vote to approve this bill. It doesn't do everything I'd like to do in reforming immigration law. As the gentleman knows, I have worked for many decades to do a variety of improvements, but this fixes something. Let's not say we can't do anything unless we do everything. That is a path towards mediocrity. Let's do what we can do to make this system work better, to move it away from its racist origins, and have a system based on merit. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back. I appreciate my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who've previously supported this legislation, and I urge that we once again vote in favor of this bill. A system that's based on where you're born instead of what you can do is not what serves America well. The system that's designed to advantage someone born in Western Europe over the entire rest of the world doesn't really recognize merit, which is what this bill is all about. We should have a system based on competitiveness, not the country where you were born.
Mr. Speaker, ironically, this bill doesn't even serve the interests of immigrants from around the world, except for two countries, China and India. By removing the per-country caps on employment-based visas, the practical effect of this bill is that for the foreseeable future, the citizens of only two countries, China and India, will be admitted to work here. Workers from every other country will have to wait many years until that backlog clears. Supporters contend that no one currently awaiting a green card will be adversely affected. That may be true as far as it goes, but what they leave out is that this bill will produce long delays for future applicants from every country except for China and India. Even the liberal American Immigration Lawyers Association points out that, quote, many applicants will now face longer wait times. Now, supporters are fond of comparing the populations of various countries as an argument that uniform percentage caps are unfair. But what they forget is that when a country's allotment isn't reached, its vacant slots then spill over to higher demand countries. India, for example, accounted for 35% of the green cards issued last year, 5 times their percentage cap.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of the EAGLE Act. I believe I may be the only one or one of very few members of Congress who has actually been on an H-1B visa back when processing times to transition to a green card weren't nearly as bad as they are today. And it still took me 17 years and a multitude of visas to become a U.S. citizen. Today, an estimated 1.6 million people in the family backlog and 200,000 in the employment backlog will die in some cases before they receive green cards because of an arcane system that puts a 7% per country limit on employment and family-sponsored green cards.
This bill will do nothing, the EAGLE Act will do nothing to secure our border or address the crisis that this administration has created. But it will dramatically alter our legal immigration system in ways that most members do not understand or fully appreciate. Even the American Immigration Lawyers Association has opposed the bill. They acknowledge that the bill will benefit immigrants from a few countries, namely China and India, while adversely impacting those wishing to legally immigrate to the United States from almost all other countries.
Is recognized for 3 minutes.
I rise today in support of HR3648, the Equal Access to Green Cards for Legal Employment, or the EAGLE Act of 2022. While I, like many others here today, would prefer to see a more robust approach to fixing our broken immigration system, the bill before us today is an important step in the right direction. This bill will have a large impact on many immigrants, and notably an overwhelming impact on Asian immigrant workers who have been historically barred from applying for U.S. citizenship. Right now, there are approximately 1.4 million individuals trapped in our backlogs waiting for available employment-based visas. The vast majority, as high as 80%, are Asian immigrants who are currently facing waiting times as high as 90 years from India or 44 years from China. Critically, the bill also more than doubles the per-country limit on family-sponsored visas from 7 to 15%, bringing relief to the nearly 4 million people who are forced to languish in limbo due to a backlogged and broken family-sponsored system.
Every one of us here has significant groups of constituents and people across this country, from the communities in question, from the Chinese-American communities, from the Indian-American communities, who have interest in wanting to make sure their communities can be represented and might well support some of this. But of course they do. Of course they do, because what are we going to do here but pick winners and losers, which is what this Congress does every single day, pick winners and losers. But who are the losers on this? It's not big tech. It's not all the big tech, big corporations that are all happy to collude with the People's House in order to get their labor supply and what they need. But who is going to be the losers? A lot of the hospitals. Why did the Hospital Association oppose this? Could it be that there's Filipino nurses and others who can be left behind are going to have to go to the back of the line? The Filipino nurses that were crowding the room in which I was being treated for cancer at MD Anderson, which was chock full of Filipino nurses. Right? We're picking winners and losers here based on nationality and specific countries. And the gentlelady from California just tried to mount a defense that we're not going to open the door to Chinese communists coming to the United States, but conveniently leaves out of the code all of the exceptions. The exception for involuntary membership, the exception for past membership, the exception for close family members. I mean, any idiot could drive a truck through those holes, right? This is not a hard thing to understand what's happening. At the 11th hour, at the end of the 117th Congress, while Democrats are colluding with a bunch of weak-kneed Republicans in the Senate to pass a bunch of money that we don't have, to borrow more money that we don't have, to jam through a massive omnibus spending bill at the expense of the American people, this body is about to jam through a garbage immigration bill that will undermine people around the world seeking to come here who are going to be put to the back of the line while colluding with big tech and big corporate interests to do it. That's what's happening right now on the floor of the House. Because we never actually have full-throated debates about this stuff, contrary to what the gentlelady said. Oh, we just dismiss, say, oh, we have a couple of hearings. What, one witness mentioned something in a hearing and that constitutes a hearing? We're not having an actual debate here on the floor. We're having 30 minutes of each side getting up and saying their talking points, and then we'll have a vote, and then we'll move on. We're not going to be able to offer amendments on the floor because nobody in this body, none of the leadership of that side of the aisle, or frankly off in this side of the aisle, gives a damn about my right to be able to offer an amendment on the floor of this House as my constituents gave me the power to do. We're here trying to defend the interest of having an immigration policy that is not based on the interest of one industry at the expense of countless other industries and at the expense of an immigration system that actually works. While our border is wide open, being exploited by cartels and China to kill 72,000 Americans last year, and my Democratic colleagues don't give a rip about a wide open border exploiting the American people and migrants getting abused in the process.
This bill assures a never-ending supply of foreign labor for American corporations. Under this bill, any alien on an employment-based green card waiting list for more than 2 years could apply for adjustment of that status. Once an alien's filed an adjustment of status application, he or she is eligible for a work permit. However, unlike an employment-based green card, which generally requires a showing that the wages and conditions of Americans are not adversely affected, this work permit is considered an open market employment authorization document, meaning the alien can take any job at any wage and there are no protections for American workers. So this bill essentially converts temporary visa holders to permanent status at the expense of American tech workers. This rewards the very same companies who for years have fired their American workers only to replace them with cheaper foreign labor. American workers, particularly Black and Hispanic Americans, are going to be particularly hard hit. The per-country caps exist to assure that the population of no single nation can come to dominate the overall immigrant population coming to these shores. Thus, under current law, immigrants from one nation cannot claim more than 7% of the visas, but under this bill, the employment-based limit is eliminated. If this is allowed to happen, assimilation breaks down, and the entire foundation of a nation of immigrants is shattered. As I said earlier, the practical effect of this bill is that the population of only two countries, China and India, will almost exclusively dominate the receipt of employment-based green cards for the foreseeable future at the expense of the people of virtually every other country in the world.
I hope you guys found this video extremely helpful. If you know anybody that could benefit from this information, definitely make sure to share this video with them. We are all about empowering you with knowledge. So the more people that can benefit from this video, the more people we want watching this video. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that thumbs icon. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and hit on the notification bell for more immigration updates. Bye!